Support WrestleTalk!
Jey Uso may have been drafted to Monday Night Raw, but because of that, someone needs to go in his place.
Listen, you've got to balance the sheet somehow.
Well, absolutely. Even though, as a few people pointed out, he did quit, so it's not like he needs to be drafted.
But did he officially quit?
Well, that's the thing. Did he just quit SmackDown? In which case, you still don't need a replacement. Either way, Jey Uso's been drafted, and Adam Pearce revealed on this show that someone from Raw is going to be going across to SmackDown as a part of the trade agreement. But whom might that be? I get the feeling it's probably going to be Cody Rhodes.
Well, let's talk about it, because I don't know.
I am Luke Owen, DAD. I'm joined by the Professor of the Truth, your Jam That Champion, Dan the Truth Layton.
And still.
Thank you very
much.
After AEW All Out. Welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast channel. Please do press the subscribe button. This is your first time here. Give us a little thumbs up and leave a comment down below if you're watching this on demand. But if you're watching us live, get in your alpha chats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 level. Now, I know what some of you will be thinking. Luke, you're late again because you were on the Instagram live. Not true, I say back to you. Dan, why were we late?
So basically what happened was, I timed to perfection about 10:02. I was like, I'm just going to go get a coffee and a cup of tea for Luke. I'll come back down. And I was back downstairs. I'm going to say it's about 3:55, maybe 3:56, which gives us a nice 4 minutes to settle in. You've closed the stream. We were already set up over here. It's just a matter of pressing the go live button.
All done. I was wrapping up my Instagram live.
Yeah, everything was. I would go so far as to say Usi.
At this is Luke.Owen.
There you go. At Daniel J. Layton. Now, what then happened was we have a fire door system in this building that is still new, and there's still, teething problems, everything, getting used to it. And every single time I've come down the stairs with a mug in each hand, I've gone, goodness, I hope no one's on the other side of that door. And today they were. So I basically go to reach the door with one hand, which has a mug in it. So it's that kind of one finger situation, just as someone else pushes it on the other side, which means bash, crash, bang, wallop, that one. And
what
then
a video.
Everything all over the place. I've got my toe is hurty because burning hot liquid just fell on it. My shirt smells of coffee, but it's a dark shirt, so that's fine.
It does smell delicious.
Well, there you go.
Even more delicious than you usually smell.
Which is, would you believe it, just deodorant half the time.
Is it really?
Yeah, just wear deodorant.
No way.
Yeah, I get so many compliments. I like fancy fragrance, but I get so many more compliments from bloody Nivea than I do from anything else.
Because I'm a spray man.
Are you? Oh, yeah.
And I've got my fragrance.
Which is?
It is the one that's shaped like a rugby trophy thing.
Oh, Invictus.
That's the one. Yeah. That's my fragrance.
Paco Rabanne.
No one ever says anything, but I do it because it makes me feel good.
I'm a Tom Ford boy. I wear Tom Ford. I have fancy fragrances. I have evening fragrances. I have daytime fragrances. So like daytime, a nice sprightly smell. Evening, something musky and sweet.
Dan, we need to get on with the show rather than us just talk about our musks.
Yeah, I'm going to get there because you know who else is musky and sweet? Jey Uso.
Yeah, that nearly works. I'm also going to ask you to just bring yourself slightly in as well. Don't be afraid to sit there.
I'm trying, but then also then as we're going live, my Holly on the NRB Twitch hasn't logged out of her Discord.
Don't be blaming Holly.
I'm blaming Holly. Left the iPad from the Twitch stream the other day, and now I didn't. So I've had to get my laptop out. So I'm a bit frazzled. But that's great energy for the podcast.
You're all 7s and 8s, aren't you?
I am. 6s, 7s, and 8s.
There was a big thing that happened on Payback. Probably the only big thing that happened, other than the tag titles changing hands. I thought not a great show was Payback.
It was a 2-match show.
Yeah, but not in a SummerSlam 2013 kind of good.
No.
Kind of way, in which was a 2-match show, but those 2 matches were all-timers.
Yeah, it was very much, the opening match was an absolute banger. Trish and Becky, putting Paige to 3 months of bad, tired, spinning wheels build to deliver an absolutely sensational match.
It's the best match that they've had.
Genuinely one. And I would go so far as to say it was up there for me in one of the best matches WWE turned out this year. And then the tag match was a lot of fun.
Great fun.
And a big title change.
Yeah, really, really good. But the other big thing that happened on the show was Jey Uso was announced as the newest member of the roster for Monday Night Raw. Now, reportedly, this makes sense because the reported plan is that they split Jey and Jimmy at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
But they are not ready to do, or they don't want to do the Jimmy Jey match anytime soon. That's why it didn't happen at Payback. and that's why Jey was written off of TV, where he quits the company.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to do that match until WrestleMania.
Mhm.
Like they see that as a big marquee match for Mania, which I agree with.
Mm.
So this, I feel, is actually a really good way to keep them apart, is to keep Jimmy on SmackDown, keep Jey on Raw. Jimmy can do his stuff with Solo Sikoa that I don't think is hugely getting over. But Jey can just go and beat Jey for a little bit. And then, maybe they'll have a showdown in the Royal Rumble. And that's where you then start the program that leads to Jimmy versus Jey at Mania.
I agree. And it was interesting that this Cody Rhodes being on Payback to do a Grayson Waller effect moment. And then he tweets just before going out, like, oh, there's a little announcement. I was like, what's the announcement? And as he's coming out, he talks about, do you watch Monday Night Raw? Do you watch? And I was like, he's going to go to SmackDown. He's about to tell us he's moving to SmackDown. And then when it was the reveal that actually was Jey coming to Raw, I was like, oh, that's interesting. So then you get the follow-up, which is on Raw being about, potentially someone going over to SmackDown. I was like, okay, so there's a lot of question marks to go down. The actual splitting of Jimmy and Jey, to your point, it's they basically did this last year with Dominic and Ray, didn't they? It was like, we're building to this, to you having a match, but we don't want to get there. We want to save it for a big show when there aren't any big shows in this period of time.
So we just put them on different brands.
We'll just move them on different brands. And again, it was this thing of like, I just think I want to quit. And then Ray goes over and, wins the Intercontinental Championship #1 contendership on the first night, So it was a big sort of deal. So they've got previous and it's done well. So like, why not, run it back, I guess.
I can't wait for it to be a Cinnamon Toast Crunch sponsored match.
Because they used to eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch as children. And they're...
I've never had it. We don't get it here.
No.
But yeah, so Jey opened the show this week, and he had a segment with Sami Zayn. I actually really like this story that they're doing with Jey.
Oh my God, I loved it.
I think it's a really cool thing, which is that, like, oh, dude, you've pissed off a lot of people with the bloodline. So I'm happy to see you here. I'm proud of you for standing up for who you are and like being main event Jey Uso and leaving the bloodline. But I am kind of alone in that. Kevin's not cool with it. And there are a lot of people backstage that are not cool with it. And they illustrated that by when Sami and Jey were walking to the back, Drew McIntyre and Matt Riddle's tag match was next. So Drew walks in, and you're like, oh, it's a year since Clash at the Castle and the bloodline screwed over Drew winning the world title. So he's staring daggers into them. And like Sami then runs back being like, hey, no, it's cool. Let's not do this now. Like we need to, we'll not do this. And then Matt Riddle comes in, and you're like, oh yeah, Matt Riddle's got his issues with the bloodline because of what they did to Randy and this, that, and the other. And so Sami again has to play peacekeeper. And then later on in the show, you had the segment where like Jey was more or less just on his own. So much so that Dominic Mysterio walked up to be like, I know what it's like to leave a family and come from a broken home with a Hall of Fame deadbeat dad. But I found a new family. And I reckon I could put in a good word and I can welcome you into it. Like you can leave one family and come into your new family with the Judgment Day. So it's kind of cool. Like it sets up a lot of like spinning plates of people aren't particularly keen with Jey being on Raw because of the bloodline. B, it's kind of set up Jey versus bloodline as his first Raw storyline, which I'm all in for.
I almost wanted to stop you while you were doing that because there were so many. It was through the course of the show, all this Jey stuff, and there were so many individual moments that I thought were absolutely brilliantly done, separate from each other, right? So as you're doing the recap of all of it, I'm like, oh, let's really focus in on that. Oh, let's really focus in on that. Because that's such a rare thing that we get to do. I mean, Raw has been broadly fine for over a year now at this point. Some absolute stinkers in there, some absolute bangers in there, but broadly fine.
Broadly fine.
So rarely do I sit back in a moment in a show and go, oh, I loved the way you did that, especially on a production level. Because right at the beginning, you have Jey come out, and he's got a new theme. Jimmy had a new theme, which sounds like a little bit of magic over on SmackDown. And then you have Jey's new theme, which is not new. It's a reimagining. It's a rewriting.
Yeah, of the Usos theme.
And the lyric is, just me, Us. He's on his own.
Yeah.
Even in the way he's been sung to the ring. He left through the crowd. He comes back through the crowd. Right? He re-enters the arena, as it were. And I like that as a visual, coming back into the arena of this weekly show, because you are kind of up there against these gladiators because they've all got it in for you. And then as he does this moment with Sami, it wasn't very easy of me to not give you a cuddle. They have a little cuddle together. That's quite nice to see. The first person to meet him is someone who has been pushing for him to take the stand for himself. And then he leaves. And as he's going up, we get a literal gauntlet of people who have it in for him. I'm almost sad that there weren't more people in this match that had it in for him.
Yeah.
Because the idea that he's walking up the aisle and there's someone who wants to take him out. And, all right, I know that. I'll move past. Well, here's another one who wants to take you out.
Yeah.
That was really cool to me. I thought that was a
was
really great
smart.
visual, and I was really impressed with him doing that. And then at the end of the show, should I just do the Dominic thing? Because I was full of praise for this moment.
Go for it.
Because Dominic
Dom was superb in this segment.
Dominic was absolutely outstanding. Like, from a performance level, first of all, I was like, oh, there's the little trade compensation thing that was quite interesting.
We'll come on to that in a second, but let's do the Dom bit.
Because it really, he was there sort of on his own, and then he did, like, standing in the little corner, Jey versus the world. He's almost like, oh, I thought this was going to be a big triumphant moment, and I've left behind people, and hopefully people could see this. Maybe that's all going through his head. I don't know. But then Dominic walks over, and I actually found it a little bit adorable. Like, the way he was holding his body was almost like that of a child. He might as well have been holding a teddy bear in a blanket. Like, he was being really vulnerable and just sort of saying exactly as you said, I know what this is like. And it wasn't in a smarmy heel, like, welcome to Raw. Like, it wasn't negging him.
And it could have come across as comedy because it was like, I left a broken home.
And it has been comedy with Dominic, hasn't it?
Yeah,
you're
exactly,
right.
Absolutely, yeah. But this didn't come across that way. This was quite a sincere promo from Dominic Mysterio.
He was basically saying, and the idea of like the deadbeat dad and it's Rey Mysterio that we all, and because of the situation with Mummy and when he talks and we've got all the booing, he's kind of a comedy heel, prison Dom. You know, he's been to dirty Dominic Mysterio. He's the North American champ. And it's kind of a bit silly. Yeah. All of it is a bit, and we're all in on the joke. Exactly.
He's a punchline that we're all in on.
And yet, in this moment, you heard his point. And every villain should feel justified in their actions, whether or not they are, whether or not we agree with them. Dominic Mysterio is saying, I'm from a broken home. Like, my dad wasn't there for me. I felt like I was performing in the idea of this family, so I know what this is like. And I found a family now. Just letting you know, it can get better, and there's space for you. Which is so nice and so welcoming and such an interesting way to go, because they could, and the Judgment Day have, been the kind of snarky losers almost in a way.
The goth kids at school.
He could have walked over and negged the hell out of him and got a punch, and it would have been a whatever segment. This was really effective.
And you could tell how effective it was, because Jey at the end of this was almost like,
you got a point there.
You got a point there.
Because he's just walked in and everyone's turned back on him.
Everyone's having a pop at him.
Yeah.
Even Akira Tozawa's having a pop at him. And they've done nothing wrong to Akira Tozawa. Although, I'm going to shout this person out because I did spy it out the corner of my eye. Sorry, I've lost where it is.
Oh, no.
Handsome Sausage here says, wouldn't Finn also have a problem with Jey? Because Finn would. You know, him at like the Bloodline and God screwed him out of his world title match.
When was that?
Extreme Rules 2021?
Okay. I can't remember that.
It's the one where he's going up for the coup de grace and then the top rope falls.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
it was basically put over as it was an act of God that saved the Bloodline and the title.
But you could also then make the argument that, like, you know, over time, whatever, and Dom, almost the opposite of like Sami and whatever, like Jey was vouching for Sami or Jimmy was vouching for Sami and Dom starts vouching for Jey. There's a lot of avenues that you could go down with that. And I just really wanted to praise Dominic Mysterio because he was so good here. And it was a good piece of writing. It was a good choice to make. And I don't often say that about the production of these moments.
I agree. So. And they also gave you a little nugget of a bit of a tease, something that we'll probably see play into in next week's episode, which is that Adam Pearce said, look, Jey, it's great to have you on Raw, but Cody Rhodes had to pull a lot of strings in order to get you here on Raw. And because of that, we have to trade someone over across to SmackDown. And you're not liked now, but the person who's going to get traded is probably going to make you even less liked in this locker room.
Yeah.
So Cody, like, I feel like Cody is the answer that makes the most sense to me in terms of that would be someone, kayfabe-wise, the locker room would be upset. Certainly the babyface locker room would be upset that Cody's been traded across. It is a main eventer for a main eventer, so it's almost like an equal level trade. And it puts Cody back on the same brand as Roman, so you can build towards your WrestleMania match and Cody can finish the story.
Yeah, that is 3 good bits of logic.
The potential, like, that might not be the case, though, is Drew effectively on this episode said, my next feud's Cody Rhodes, by the way.
Did he?
Well, so Drew, when he was having his argument with Kofi Kingston, and because Kofi got involved in their tag match, he said, like, look, I'm going to be keeping an eye on Jey Uso, and if Jey Uso steps out of line, I'm going to be going to the man who brought him across it. I'm going after Cody.
Right.
So it kind of like Drew was essentially, in so many words, saying, I'm going to have a singles feud with Cody at some point.
Someone pointed out when we did that whole What Next for Cody episode.
Yeah, and so, like, Drew's a great shout. We all think he's going to be turning heel soon. But yeah, I just feel like turning him across to SmackDown kind of makes the most sense.
So the question basically since the question since WrestleMania, I suppose, has been, when's he getting the belt? Because it wasn't then. When's it going to be?
He got drafted to Raw,
and then I was going to say, then we got the announcement of this World Heavyweight Championship. Then that World Heavyweight Championship got drafted to Raw, then Cody got drafted to Raw and Roman got drafted to SmackDown. So it was like they're separate. Then the belt, and he was in the title for the belt, and the belt is exclusive to Raw, but there were SmackDown people involved in it, and all of that nonsense. All of it was going down. It was like, oh, okay. This has been the question ever since. How do you get them together again? And my answer really has just been, well, he wins the Royal Rumble. And my argument is to run it back. Instead of Gunther at 1 and Cody at 30, Cody at 1 and Gunther at 30. And they do that thing of, like, I guess, repeat the Undertaker and Shawn thing of repeating the thing that happened last year, but in a different way. I personally don't know if I find it the most inspired choice. Yeah. Because then what does he do on SmackDown? Does he just do Bloodline stuff until WrestleMania? Versus, I mean, they've announced him for Raw next week. They've announced that Cody Rhodes makes a return to Raw. He does a big speech on Raw next week.
Which is also was sort of tipping me towards this, and that's where they make the announcement
that
he's being drafted to SmackDown. To answer, like, what's he going to do? There's been reports that he's going to have a tag match with Cena at some point. So, like,
that's true.
So Cena's over on SmackDown,
and I mean, hell, we were all salivating a little bit at the idea of, like, I mean, I saw it on Twitter, people being like, Cody and Cena together. Thank you for reminding me of that.
So yeah, you've got that, and like that kind of. Anyway, it was the Grayson Waller effect, who's a SmackDown guy with Cody Rhodes. I feel like he's almost inserting himself into some SmackDown storylines. I did see someone in the chat as well say, like, it could either be Cody. Kevin would be an interesting one because, like, from Sami's perspective, then, like, he's happy that Jey is here, but in doing so, he's now lost his best friend who's now been drafted to another show. So there could be, some fun stuff to have around with that.
That's interesting.
Or Sami goes across, and that's actually more fuel for Kevin. So then you've got a KO Jey.
I just lost my mate, and that way you don't have to do a Sami Kevin split.
Yeah,
because I think that's something that I'm a little bit like, let's not do that.
Yeah, and particularly like they did nothing with the tag belts. Not their fault.
No.
Like, I feel like they did nothing with the tag belts, and I don't think their run as a tag team has been particularly inspiring at post WrestleMania. And then I saw someone say, like, The Miz, because he is feuding with Knight at the moment. So rather than it be a cross-promotional thing, you can just move Miz across to there. I don't see the point. He's always kind of like yucking it up with Grayson Waller, but, like, I don't see the point in moving the Miz across because you've already got Grayson Waller over on SmackDown. Like, you don't need both of them there. I think that would actually undermine Waller and undermine the Miz somewhat as well.
Unless you pivot Miz into a Jarrett role. And
make him great.
Well, I mean, surprise, he's been great all along is what would happen, wouldn't it?
Ain't he great?
The idea being that, like, he would be a sort of, like, they're all together and they're all the management team and they're all annoying or whatever. Like, Team TNA is kind of annoying. Like, it's the same thing with Miz and Waller. But I, again, think that would be an uninspired choice because the thing that Pierce said here about, like, it might get on people's nerves even more. If you're setting up this idea that it's Jey Uso versus the world, and then he's in the Miz across to SmackDown, nobody's going to care.
That's the thing, is, like, that's why I don't think it'd be the Miz.
Yeah.
Because that would not upset the Raw locker room.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It would need to be someone who is a popular name. So that kind of as the three being, I think, Cody, Sami, and Kev. And someone pointed out there, like, wouldn't it be too obvious for it to be Cody? Well, and, like, someone said, like, guys, it's obvious it's Tommaso Ciampa because Ciampa walked into the office afterwards. But, like,
I was like, that's DIY.
But that also doesn't upset the Raw locker room.
No, it needs to be some form of leader.
Yeah.
It needs to be someone who makes a statement, or who a number of people have who a number of people have sort of a connection with. If they hadn't just won the tag belts, I'd suggest it was Damian Priest.
Damian Priest, Becky.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't even think of the women's division. Yeah. Could be Becky. I'm looking at the list of Raw superstars now. Chad Gable.
Chad that splits up Alpha Academy.
Yeah, and people, the fans would be upset with that, and it would maybe provide. I mean, not to bury the lead and get too ahead of ourselves because we'll talk about that match later. But oh my God, Chad Gable made himself look like more of a star every single week.
Absolutely.
It won't be Gunther because he's got the belt.
Yeah.
Could be Jackie Redmond. I could get Kathy Kelly back.
Jinder.
Jinder's share.
Like New Day, maybe.
Yeah, I'm looking at this roster.
Yeah.
There's nobody here who I'm like, other than, I think your top three are probably Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
And I think
with the criteria that has been laid out in front of us, those are the ones that make the most sense.
Yeah. And I said it was a sort of uninspired choice, and that purely for me exists in the idea of like, well, I can see what the reason Cody Rhodes is amazing, right? I love Cody Rhodes, but he should have won the belt. Sorry to do the meme. Sorry to do the thing that you're all like, you're still harping on about. And I know you're all right. We are doing that. But the reality of the situation is it has led to him sort of just being there because we're all expecting it. And when you're all expecting it, you're like, well, can't I have it now? It hasn't been delivered as a shock twist, and the story hasn't been about Cody finding himself again or anything like that. He's just been having matches.
Well, Cody feuded with Brock Lesnar for over 100 days in a storyline that went from point one and ended at point one. And then has done
a great moment.
And has done nothing since.
Yeah.
For all this talk that, the reports are that like WWE still think that they made the right decision because like they've made more main eventers out of not putting the belts on Cody because they've made main events out of Jay, Jimmy, and Solo. I was like, well, you could have done that. The other one was, well, business is still really good. I was like, yeah, it probably still would have been good with Cody as champion either. But like, I cannot buy into this argument that like Cody's in a much better place now since not winning the belts because, as I laid out then, he feuded with Brock for 100 days in a storyline that went nowhere. And has done nothing since.
And the only other thing that's also got a little question mark in my head is we are now, folks, on the road to War Games, probably. Like, it's not been announced that it's going to be a Survivor Series, but you can make a bet that they're going to do something similar.
I would have thought they'd already announced it by now. Well, they announced it quite early doors that they were doing Survivor Series War Games.
That's true, they did do that. But even so, Survivor Series, I suppose you have the big 5-man matches, the multi-person matches. And it has felt to me like it would be Judgment Day versus Sami, Kevin, Seth, and Cody. Right? Like,
oh, no. But, like, oh, man, I'm well done at that, though.
Yeah, but that said...
Sami continuing his feud with Judgment Day on this episode of Raw made me groan heartily.
Not to be an absolute troll, but if you take Cody over to SmackDown and so he's not one of that team, there's a spot on that team open, and where's Survivor Series being held this year? Chicago.
It certainly is.
Who was apparently rumored to be Punk's chosen opponent for WrestleMania Night 1 main event, Kevin Owens. You could have a little summon. But yeah, I don't know. Cody, probably.
I feel like it's Cody.
Yeah.
And someone said there like it's too obvious, but obvious isn't always bad.
Yeah, obvious isn't always bad, especially when you can go somewhere with it.
And like it makes storyline sense. Like, obvious isn't bad, particularly if it does make storyline sense. And it does. Like, he has pulled all of these strings and pulled in all of his favors.
Oh, you're right.
So he can get to SmackDown and get to Roman. That's his goal. That's the only thing he wants to do is beat Roman and finish the story.
For that title.
So he's doing everything he can to get himself into that position.
That is a jolly good reading.
Narratively, it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, narratively, it makes no kind of sense because, first of all, brand split what? Second of all, Adam Pearce is trading with himself. Third of all...
obviously...
Jey Uso wasn't a part of the roster. He was in the alumni section.
Well, like, Miz and Knight are currently feuding, and they're not on the same brand, but kept being on each other's show. Like, honestly, it's brand split LOL until they decide the brand split is important and we need to focus on it.
It's just such easy tweaks. This is what I'm talking about, why I really wanted to give such massive praise to that Dominic Mysterio segment and to the opening Gauntlet segment, because elsewhere on this show, including but not limited to this segment, there's production logic choices that are so stupid. Like the base level of not being able to commit to this idea of this brand split. Just commit. Just commit. Mm-hmm. Give one of them a GM. Like, it doesn't need to be in every week. Adam Pearce, but a second one.
Yeah.
You know?
Adam Pearce, but another one.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what you thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw and our opening topic in your Alpha Chats. WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one of them above the $5 amount. And Ben Vlerick is going to kick us off here. Said, no disrespect to Jey, love him. But ain't a crap deal for Raw to trade their top babyface and overall second biggest star in the company in Cody for a tag wrestler. Granted, one of the best with singles potential. Can he take Cody's spot? I don't know. Let's not be dogging on tag team wrestlers.
Yeah.
Considering as well that Dax Harwood just had like an absolute, one of the best matches of the weekend against Jay White.
Yeah.
On Collision. So like, I don't think I'm going to say like it's a downgrade. It's what people said about the Mania. It's a real step down for Sami to be going after the tag titles in WrestleMania.
Well, they main evented Mania.
Were they main evented in the end?
I will say I do know what you mean when you say a tag team wrestler, because there are some tag team wrestlers who are just, really good in that kind of tag team context. I'm thinking of Too Cool. I'm thinking of Too Cool are better as a unit than they were as individuals. Or I guess the New Age Outlaws for me were better as a unit than they were as individuals.
What are you talking about? Road Dogg's IC title run that he had?
Around the time they gave each other the wrong belts.
Leading into WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Where Billy Gunn was in a feud Billy Gunn was in a feud with Val Venus and Ken Shamrock over the IC title, and Road Dogg was in a feud with Al Snow and the Big Boss Man over the Hardcore title. But then at WrestleMania, Billy Gunn is the Hardcore champion going up against Big Boss Man and Al Snow, or it might have been Hardcore Holly actually, and Road Dogg was in an IC match with Val Venus and Ken Shamrock.
It's a bit silly, isn't it?
It was very silly. Very stupid.
So I do see what you're saying there, but I also feel like Jay's work has done such a good Jay's been so good in this little run that I think he deserves to be seen individually as well as one of the Usos. I also think that if you just look at that first shot, something I was really thinking about was when he climbs up, first of all, coming down the stairs, everyone seems to be well hyped. Then he stands up and he's doing this, and the crowd are doing it back. We love to join in. Like, crowds love to join in with things. Sometimes for the wrong choices. Stop it! And then the I hate you for this right now. The visual of the crowd doing that back is akin to the crowd doing this. They love that kind of stuff. So, like, if they weren't interested in him, they wouldn't have been doing it. Yeah. So he's a big star. He main evented WrestleMania.
Amy here says, I'm not saying this is a good idea, but what if instead of Cody going to SmackDown, it's Kevin? He's well-liked and well-respected and beloved by Sami, who was ready to welcome Jey back with open arms. Kevin is my number 2 choice of interesting story developments. The other thing with Cody as well is that I think USA Network would be really pleased if Fox had Roman, Cena, and Cody on the same. And what have we got then?
Yeah.
Oh, you've got
main event Jey Uso.
You got main event Jey Uso here.
You got the Miz, A-lister. 2-time Grand Slam champion, thank you.
Kuzu here says, Cody being traded makes the most sense. He's the one who brought Jey to Raw and obviously did it to go after Roman. Roman isn't going to be happy with that Cody intervened, and that's when we build to WrestleMania.
Yeah, I do like... Well, so the interesting question is, right, and I hate to be frustrating about it, but we were like, how is Cody going to get to Roman? Well, now how's Jey going to get to Jimmy? Like... If I feel like we take this brand split far more seriously than they do.
Oh, 100%
right?
We do.
So, like...
For all we know, this will never come up again.
Yeah. However, I love this logic, because I love it from you, the idea that Cody's pulled some strings to get on SmackDown. Like, I appreciate that. That's a nice little bit of narrative.
Oh, look, everyone in the chat is going hardcore country.
I hate you all.
We're taking it back, everyone.
We're reclaiming it.
We're reclaiming it. Some fools tried to ruin this at Rev Pro, and we're trying to take it back and reclaim it as a good chance.
Is that why you interrupt your streams to send me voice notes?
Yes.
That haunt me.
Steve has been a member for 6 months in a row. Said it's got to be Kevin. Sets up issues with his only supporter, Sami. Dan is delicious as always. Love you guys.
Particularly delicious today if you're a fan of coffee. I do like that idea of Kevin. I do like the idea of it, or like Sami going and it splitting up this pair who just got their relationship back on track, and then I guess you could run if Jey goes towards the Judgment Day, you can run a Jey and Sami feud, and then for War Games, where am I going to find my team? Half of them have left. Then you get to recreate Kevin coming down. Oh, that was so tasty.
And a little note from our moderators as well that the SmackDown show this Friday is advertising Cody Rhodes versus Damian Priest. Obviously, that'll be the dark match. I don't read too
Yes,
much
never
into
do.
any of that. I get sent this a lot by people being like, they're advertising this for a house show I'm going to in 2 months' time. It's like that, but it's always got that big asterisk on their card subject to change. And dark matches aren't like in continuity.
I mean, there's an advert out there for the Indus Share versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the tag team titles.
Yes.
In the Super Show in India. So, you know, those don't mean anything.
No,
really.
Absolutely not. Right. Well, we're going to need to get into the show. However, Dan, you know, slightly embarrassing here. You and I are wearing very similar outfits today.
Yeah, we're a tag team.
Yeah,
so we should wear similar gear.
We should do, because, like, you know, we talked about this. You know, you've worn shirts like this before, and I was like, oh man, I'm glad I didn't wear my flowery shirt, because otherwise people would think that I'm trying to dress like you. Or
Last week I was dressing like you because I was literally wearing that. I was wearing a white top and a floral open.
So I feel like maybe I just need to change my outfit so I don't look as much like you do.
We're a tag team. We should wear the same outfit.
No, Dan, I think for the show, I think it is important that you and I look distinct enough from each other that people do not confuse. People get us mixed up all the time.
Oh, yeah, they
because
do.
We look so similar. So I just think that maybe I need to do something so I can just differentiate myself from you in some way.
Improv's about saying yes. Go on, do your thing.
I'll just quickly get changed into a brand new outfit.
If you come back naked, I swear to God. Whatever will he be wearing? I wore this today because it's nice and floral and it's summertime. And then I walk in, and before saying hello, everybody just goes, oh no. And I'm like, what have I done? What have I done wrong? And then I look over, and there's the other half of Pretty Dadley also wearing a floral shirt. And I was like, oh, I like this. But everyone is, yeah!
There we go. Maybe that's better now.
Now we're talking.
Maybe that's what we needed.
The
right
doors
here.
I've opened, the influences I've had. You've praised in the past year. You've praised the Miz, Natalia, and now you've got your chest out.
Yeah,
everyone can see a little tattoo there.
Just peeking through.
Lovely. Do we go? It's a tattoo, not a nipple.
I think it's quite clear on screen. Actually, I mean, it does look quite nipply, doesn't it, on camera?
A little bit, but you know, I love this. Anyone tuning in is going to be very confused.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is like, well, I'm seeing double here.
Luke's just doing a show with
dads.
himself, I suppose.
Right, anyway, let's get into the full review of this episode of Monday Night Raw. We opened with a big video promo for Payback that had a lot of focus on the tag match, where the Judgment Day won the tag titles. And then we got a new intro video.
We got yeah.
An actual with
Opening
big pyro,
titles.
yeah, opening titles with pyro and everything that had Jey Uso in there and Trish.
And Trish. Yeah, I don't think she's fully gone.
I don't think she's fully gone either. And then it was revealed that Nakamura attacked Rollins after their Payback main event, so that feud will continue. Jey Uso opened the show, which we talked about a moment ago, and then we got some... we went from really good WWE staging and production to very bad... Immediately very bad WWE production and layouts, because what happened is Jey and Sami left. They bumped into Drew making his entrance. Then Matt Riddle made his entrance. And then we got a video package for Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura with a promo from Shinsuke. Then we had a backstage segment where Ricochet said, I'm not on TV anymore. Why am I not on TV anymore? And Seth Rollins walked past him, and he and Adam Pearce had a thing about the fact that, Seth, your back's bad. You're not allowed to be here today. And Ricochet's like, you don't need to carry this company on your own. I can do this for you, Seth. And then we had an ad break. Well, actually, sorry, then we cut back to the ring, and Drew and Riddle are standing there. Then we got an ad break, and then we come back from the ad break, and Drew and Riddle are standing there, and then the Viking Raiders made their entrance, and then we got a video recap of what happened last week. I was like, start the fucking match already!
Did you hear Drew just before they went to the ad break?
Yeah, it's like,
Drew just went, we've been standing here for ages!
I could do this all day.
We're going to fight! And it is a thing when you've been to a Raw or a SmackDown, and you see someone come out, and you see this in person, they are just standing there waiting for it to happen. They're doing nothing.
Well, the thing is, actually, if you've been to a live Raw taping, what happens is they dim the lights down and then play whatever up on the screen. Then they raise the lights up and play, some music and stuff to film them, and then dim the lights back down again. So, it's up, down, up, down.
And this was not the last time in this episode of Monday Night Raw where this production nonsense went down. And it gets on my nerves. And I know it seems like it's this stuff that seems like nitpicking, but it's not. You know why? And also, people have a go at us for adverts. We'll talk about adverts in this episode of Monday Night Raw as well. America, you have way more adverts than we do.
Oh, yeah.
If you watch a weekly episode of television in our country, we probably have a third of the number of adverts you do. So it feels disjointed to us.
In a half-hour show, we have one ad break.
Yeah.
And it comes at the 15-minute mark.
When I watch an episode of Friends, this is so true, because when I watched an episode of Friends the first time I went to America, it was an ad break. There was no ident or anything like that. It just went straight into the pre-episode joke. Then there was an ad break. Then there was the opening titles. Then there was the first bit. Then there was an ad break. Then there was the second bit. Then there was an ad break. Then there was the post-episode joke. Then there was an ad break. That was so many. And that just does not happen here.
I learned something from Talking Simpsons, which is that each act of a Simpsons episode has an ad break.
Yeah.
For a 20-minute show, it gets 3 ad breaks in there.
Yeah. Nonsense.
But anyway, what wasn't nonsense was Drew McIntyre and Matt Riddle. Sorry, Mod Mother. I didn't mean to. I did a big swear there. Very sorry. Drew McIntyre and Matt Riddle took on the Viking Raiders in a tornado tag match with no rules. They sort of felt that they kind of put this over as a nice tribute to Terry Funk.
Texas Tornado,
yeah. And like, I quite enjoyed the moment when Riddle tried to do the Dudley Boys spot with Drew. He shoved him and said, "Get the tables." So Drew shoved him back so hard that Riddle took a bump, and he said, "Get him yourself."
Yeah.
Riddle went, "All right."
I liked this bit. I don't love it when Drew does comedy usually, but I actually did quite like this bit.
I actually found this quite endearing.
Yeah.
They really are going with the Glass Bros, though, as the name.
I'll still write down Airheads, because I think that's brilliant.
This was very fun, chaotic action. Valhalla caused interference, which allowed the Raiders to kind of take out Riddle and Drew. Kofi ran down to stop them doing Ragnarok through a table, but he accidentally gave Riddle the trouble in paradise. The Viking Raiders then threw Kofi into Drew and gave the Ragnarok to Riddle through the table and got the win. And Drew was quite PO'd about this.
And when you consider that last week he had said that I'm doing this so that I don't have to tag in, like he seems to be frustrated in this whole tag team thing. People getting interfering, Kofi interfering, and it causing them to have a loss. I'm into this seeding him being really angry all the time. Yeah. I like it.
They were really putting over the importance of the IC title on the show by showing you the greats that have held the belt. They did this a lot throughout the show. So, they were showing Pedro Morales, Pat Patterson, Steve Austin, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Booker T.
Hey now.
Look, I had to do one of them, otherwise the joke doesn't work.
It doesn't.
I had a whole segment in my edited review that I had to cut out because I went too far, being like, and Booker T. Feel bad for making that joke, but there's really no one else I could pick. I can't pick The Miz. I ragged on him earlier.
Yeah.
I could have picked Triple H, I guess, but we'll go with Booker T.
You remember they did when Triple H first took Monday Night Raw back from the mustache, the first time. They did that amazing video package with a JBL voiceover about the US title.
Title.
I kind of wish they'd done that for the Intercontinental.
The image slideshow is a little bit, it's my mum and dad's wedding anniversary and I want to give them a nice present, but I don't know how to use Premiere Pro all that well.
Yeah.
So I've just done this in PowerPoint instead.
And they go, "Oh, isn't that lovely?"
Isn't it lovely? You've said it to Green Day's Good Riddance Time of Your Life.
Yeah.
I did that for my parents' wedding.
I bet you did. That felt too personal a story.
But I did do it in Premiere Pro. Anyway, so we then had this segment with Seth Rollins coming out for a promo in his gear, calling out Shinsuke Nakamura because Nakamura attacked him after the match at Payback. And Nakamura cuts his promo in Japanese, and Seth was like, "I'm going to assume that you've accepted this." Because what Seth wanted was for them to have a match for the World Heavyweight Championship right here, right now. And Shinsuke, who wants a World Heavyweight Championship with Seth Rollins so he can win the belt, and is looking at a Seth Rollins who is in a very vulnerable state and can't actually... He's so hurt that WWE officials will not allow him to wrestle, said no.
Yeah. I was trying to find what he said, but then Adblock went all over the place. Because he did cut his little promo in Japanese, and I thought it was curious to know exactly what he'd said. I think he said something along the lines of, like, "Don't tell me what to do," or, like, "You can wait."
Why would you wait?
Well, yeah, that part I didn't understand.
There's a really easy way out of this, which is just that Nakamura says yes, then Adam Pearce comes out and says, "No, we're not doing this match now. He's not medically cleared."
Yeah.
Because why would Nakamura want this match right now when he's most likely going to win the belt really easily?
Wade Barrett tried to cover it a little bit when he said the art of war, don't do it on your opponent's terms. The idea that, like, Seth's saying, we'll do this fight, and he's saying, I'll decide when we do this fight. Which, like, sure.
But also, you just lost.
Yeah.
Clean.
Yeah.
Like Rollins just pinned you clean. You don't actually have any grounds to be demanding another title match because you just lost. If we're in this world where wins and losses do matter, because they were telling us later on in the show that they do matter when Chad Gable had beaten Gunther, 2 weeks ago. That one mattered. So yeah, I thought this was not very good. And maybe it stems off the fact that I thought their match at Payback was exceptionally underwhelming. For as long as it went for the main event of the show, it was. Man, did it not deliver in any form. I thought it was so mediocre. And now we're just continuing this feud. I'm like, man, I don't know about that.
It's tricky because I love the Shinsuke character at this point.
Yeah,
like,
it's
I
great.
even wrote down, I love the way he moves. I love the facial expressions he's pulling. I like that they're letting him cut promos in Japanese. That video before his entrance at Payback, where it was sort of like stylized and drawn, I loved it. It really spoke to my sensibilities. And I like this whole business of that code on your back is as frail as you are. Like, you don't know what it means. I know what it means. I liked all of that.
Riley Reid knows what it means.
Stop it. I also agree that the Payback match was kind of like a little bit limp, which is frustrating because it's like we had that at WrestleMania that time with AJ Styles, and we've had it elsewhere. Shinsuke, he's not giving the things that we know he's capable of.
He's not giving us New Japan Nakamura.
No, he's not even giving an NXT Nakamura.
Every time we think we're going to get New Japan Nakamura, we never do.
I'd also go so far as to say the same of Seth recently.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Seth, considering that a lot of people argue that he is the best wrestler in WWE, at this point, I don't even feel like he's in the top 10. I feel like there's a lot of people that are eclipsing Seth in terms of in-ring work.
I don't know why it is, because it's not... the character's been defanged with the belt, but then also we liked the character work this time.
He's trying so hard to make that belt feel like something, but it feels like it's weighing him down. Like, it is really... For me, I think it's massively lowered a lot of his stock.
Which is really interesting, because when he held that WWE title the first time, he was the one basically carrying the company.
Wasn't he just?
Yeah. So it's a boring-ish proposition to think of this going forward, especially when the match we get immediately after the break is with Ricochet, which was the feud that didn't finish.
Yeah. And it had a terrible finish in his match.
Did indeed have a terrible
Didn't finish again here.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
Yeah, because what we got instead was Shinsuke versus Ricochet, and the crowd were quite quiet during this, which is what you don't want to... This was not a good crowd all night. They were loud for Jey, and they were loud for Sami. And they were
loud in the main event.
Loud for Judgment Day, particularly Dom. They really got into booing Dom, and they came alive for that main event. Everything else, not that arsed on. And that's not a great thing for what's supposed to be the number one contender to your World Heavyweight Championship.
Again, it sometimes comes down to what you're being fed, and I think that what they're being fed here was vegetables. So the crowd weren't popping for vegetables.
Vegetables are lovely.
Sure.
Give me a nice roast carrot.
Yeah, but they were serving you boiled carrot.
Oh, right. Yeah. I don't want any boiled cabbage.
Nobody wants boiled cabbage.
No, thank you.
But
yeah, what we had here was Shinsuke Nakamura versus Ricochet. Totally fine match. And then Shinsuke just used a chair for the DQ. Lame.
Yeah.
And then he had a fight with Seth Rollins. Priest was watching backstage, and Rhea Ripley told him,
not now.
Don't cash in now. Don't cash in on the weakened world champion at this point.
With a literal broken back who's just been attacked with a steel chair and had his head kicked in.
Yeah.
Don't attack him.
Don't do it now.
Not now.
We got a video package for Becky and Trish and their excellent steel cage match at Payback, and not Kathy Kelly interviewed Zoey Stark, because Zoey Stark turned on Trish at the end of their match.
I've decided after the kickoff show on Saturday and some really good work that she's been doing that we can officially start calling Jackie Redmond now, because she's doing a really good job.
She is.
She's never going to be Kathy Kelly, but she's also quite pretty and she's doing a good job.
Daniel Layton. Anyway, Shayna Baszler walked in, and I was like, oh yeah, you are part of the show, aren't you? Saying that they have unfinished business and a match was made for later on.
Interesting for me, because immediately I was like, yeah, I would like to see it. And then I was like, but it's a heatless match with two heels. How is the crowd going to respond to this?
The answer was they didn't.
Well, there you go. And so immediately I was like, I've spotted a problem here. This match needs to be 6 stars or nothing. And, you know.
The Judgment Day came out for a promo with Balor putting over everyone, I should say, and even shouted out to JD McDonough for his assistance in their tag match at Payback. Rhea points out that the Bloodline have fallen, so now they're the most dominant faction. I mean, they're draped in gold at the moment, so certainly is a good argument made for it. JD comes out with a bag. And Priest's like, look, dude, I'm really trying my best to like you, but you are not helping your cause right now by coming out. I really like Damian Priest. I think he's so cool.
Me too.
And JD's like, hey, come here to me. Oi, I've got this bag.
You know yourself. Sound quality gifts. Monaghan, Ireland.
What he has in the bag is, unfortunately, not new tag belt designs, which is what I was hoping for.
So I wrote down here. So they look all, that moment when we see them standing there in the sort of dim light with them all glistening. I was like, oh, that's a great new visual. And then they start walking forward. I'm like, ooh, those belts are looking ropey.
Those belts are rubbish.
A few poppers have been cut off and they're just looking a bit dicey. And I was like, well, what happens when you combine red and blue? Purple. Judgment Day. They could get their own belt. And then out comes JD with a bag. And I was like, here we go.
No, it's just to give Damian Priest a new Money in the Bank briefcase.
A shit Money in the Bank briefcase. Sorry to do another swear, but let's be honest. It's a Money in the Bank briefcase painted purple, and someone's put the word Senor on it in impact font.
It looks well now.
It's rubbish. Also, the briefcase isn't what's important. It's what's inside the briefcase that's important. So, Damien, remember RVD's tie-dye spray paint, airbrush?
His big weed one. Yeah.
Oh, it was amazing. It was great.
Or Damien Sandow had with his leather one.
His grown-up briefcase. Yeah, very nice. This is a rubbish briefcase.
Boombox Brock.
Yeah. Love that.
A bit of decal on it, but I'd forgotten that it had happened until I was going through the images, and I went, "Oh yeah,
it's a bit lame.
Yeah, that's quite rubbish." But anyway, Sami came out, despite the fact that Sami said last week we're finishing this at Payback, was like, "I think we should continue this," and in the end, he wants to have a match with Dom, but JD steps in and says, "Or you'll have the match instead."
Stop it for your own good.
We had more image slideshow PowerPoint presentations of the IC champs, and Gunther got a very good promo on Chad Gable. I really liked how they were hyping up this main event. It was very good. Raquel was chatting with Adam Pearce backstage, who wants a rematch with Rhea Ripley.
But didn't Shayna come out first? Because this is the other half.
Yeah.
I think this is where we get. This is the other half of the nonsense where Shayna Baszler comes out, then more things happen, then more ad breaks happen, then more things happen, then she has a match. So bear in mind that all of this is going on while Shayna is standing in the ring.
Yeah. So she wants another match. She wants a rematch because Dom interfered, and Adam Pearce says, "Yeah, I think that's going to happen." They announced later on that Dom's going to be banned from ringside, and Chelsea walks in to say, I think it is a disgrace that she is getting another title shot when, I, the actual star around here, should now be the front of the line. And in this, announced that Piper Niven is not cleared to wrestle.
So what happened was she walked... I don't know if she was much saying that she wanted a title shot as she was sort of saying, I should be in here before she is. I've been knocking on your door all day, which again continues the idea that Chelsea Green, first thing she does is write a to-do list, and at the top of that to-do list is ask Adam Pearce a question.
What's funny about that, sorry to cut you off, but Chelsea Green did used to do that.
Yeah.
So when she was in WWE the first time around, before she got fired, she'd said this on Sean's podcast, on Fightful, that every day she would sit outside Vince McMahon's office and wait, because that's what they were always told. If you want to have a meeting with Vince, you've just got to sit outside of his office and wait for an opening. So that's what she did. Every single show.
She's enterprising, and I respect it.
She sat outside his office and waited for her opportunity. Never got it, and they got fired.
Yeah.
So actually quite funny that we've now turned that into part of her Karen character.
And it works so well.
Yeah, it really does.
It's so good. But then, so just to stifle... My first initial reaction was, oh no. Because yes, Adam Pearce says, say, Piper Niven is not medically clear to compete. And then they even had a conversation about, are you going to strip me of this belt or whatever? And I was like, oh my... They even referenced the curse of these belts on camera. There has been a report. I don't know if you've read the report, but she's got an illness.
She's just out for a handful of weeks.
Yeah,
it's nothing serious. They're not going to strip the titles of them. I mean, they're not defending them anyway, but
well, yeah, but she's just poorly. She's fine. But I was like, oh Jesus, maybe put them in the bin. It's not even. I'm the first person to say that I want these belts to be treated well, but I don't think the belt, whatever the hell Crystal Mercedes Moné putting those belts on the way out? I would like to know, because it's working.
So anyway, they set up a match between Chelsea and Raquel. We then got Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark. They really beat each other up here, and they were like, they put it over as well, and I thought it was quite a nice little bit of commentary by Cole. This is the woman in Shayna Baszler who ran Ronda Rousey out of the company, and Zoey Stark has run Trish Stratus off as well. Yeah. So like these two have run off legends, and they're going to be like, now they're having a fight here. It wasn't a brilliant match. Like, it was, a bit sloppy in places, but they really tried, and they really tried to like tried to make this feel like a real hard hitting endeavor. And it was Zoey Stark doing her little slingshot senton thing, but she got caught in the Kirifuda clutch, which was a very cool spot. And then she tried to fight, but could not escape it, and eventually passed out, and the referee called the match off. And afterwards, Shayna Baszler gave her a little fist bump. So they've gone from tag teams to going on singles feuds to just being a tag team together.
Well, this is it. So I had this question. First of all, when I said earlier on I was curious about how this crowd was going to respond, this is what I mean by feeding them vegetables, because it's two heels, no heat, and then no heat, by which I mean there's been no build to this match. It's just happening tonight. And then Shayna comes out. The entrance is interrupted immediately by an ad break, and then by a backstage, and then by another backstage, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, so the crowd hasn't got its moment to really sink its teeth into. Then the match itself is disjointed, especially at the beginning. It looked like there was just a little bit of like, oh, we didn't quite nail that. Let's find a way back into it. And it was showing you working a little bit. The Z360 attempt was a whole pile of yikes. And then it was like, but again, at the very least, she was like, right, now I'm going to do a splash. I think the idea was that they hit the move and Shayna would roll out. So it's like, we'll make the most of the situation. And then by the end, you did get that springboard into the Kirifuda clutch that showed what they could do. Like, they really had these ideas. And on a different night, maybe they would have connected. And Zoe showed her skill and potential to create chemistry. Shayna Baszler is Shayna Baszler. I then wondered, okay, are we going into tag team route? Because she said, you gave me a better fight than Ronda ever did. Fist bump, fist bump. Or is this an attempt to sort of seed putting Zoe into fighting single star? Do you know what I mean? I think it could be either at the moment.
Could go either way.
I personally...
It's not for sure it's a tag team thing.
I'm not mad at the idea of it being a tag team thing. If they did want to go down... Exactly. And I think they're both great, but I would like to see Zoe... It felt like Trish taking that Z360 at the end of that cage match really felt like a big stamp on all the work she's been doing to put Zoe over in this feud.
I quite like the idea as well of Zoe and Shayna going up against Piper Niven and Chelsea Green, because... like, that's wonderful stuff for Chelsea to work with, because like you got Shayna and Zoe who love to batter people, and then you got Piper Niven who loves to batter people, and Chelsea Green,
little fairy Chelsea,
as the little comedy character with all of this, who is just like, she's going to get in with the bigger girls, and I think that would be really funny. Some good comedy could come from that. Speaking of Chelsea Green, after a segment where Finn was pitching for JD McDonough to join the group.
I have some stuff about that.
Go for now.
Just because they've got a lair. They've got a special little lair backstage for the Judgment Day. And it's like, it's getting more camp every week. Like, they're adding they've got pictures of their own faces now. It started with them just sat near some purple lights, and now it's a lair, and also because of the placement of the...
set up the purple light over there. We need to set up our little lair.
Who's that?
That's Rhea talking to the production team.
Oh, because she's Australian. Okay, for a second I was like, is that you being Finn? Because it's not working anymore. They start...
Could you not tell by my incredible Australian accent?
You must simply be stopped. They've plonked their little title belts all over the places. They've specifically set them so neatly in the background. It's all just so nonsense. And then Rhea stumbled a line, and I'm like, if you've taken all this time to set this up, do a second take. It'll take you 30 seconds.
But it's live. They can't do it.
No, it isn't. That wasn't live. That was pre-tape. If that's live...
If someone stumbles over a line, I assume it's a live thing, because otherwise you just do another take.
Well, that's what I in that case, I hope it was live. Get better.
We then got Raquel versus Chelsea Green.
Chelsea Green.
At one point during this match, Wade Barrett said, I can't think of anyone in the women's locker room that can match the power of Raquel Rodriguez. I was like, Rhea Ripley, you dummy!
That was the whole story 2 days ago.
In fairness, Michael Cole did say, well, Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
And Wade Barrett was like, well, I think you'll find actually that Rhea Ripley actually exceeds Raquel's strength, which really shows you how strong she is.
I just want to point out to the people at home, even your Wade Barrett impression is the wrong accent. Like,
Well, he's not very...
He's from Stockport.
I know, but he doesn't sound like he's very Stockport.
But he doesn't sound like he's Cockney.
He doesn't look... Oh, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. I'm going to bring prestige back to this Intercontinental Championship like I was previously saying.
When we tune into Raw next week and he's dressed as a pearly king and queen, then I'll fully go with it.
Because it's not like he's going to be like, I like that, I can't.
That's not Stockport either.
It's a bit Mancunian.
No, that's
I went a bit Scouse on that one then.
Kid.
Well, yeah, okay, but then
Kid.
Kid.
That's Scouse.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's a similarness in there. But I was trying to get more Stockport.
I am not taking accent lessons from you. I'm simply not. Move on.
Hey, all right. You gotta be a bit more nasally with the Stockportian accent. Yeah, all right. Oh, I don't know. To be honest.
It's not working.
Says you.
Hey now.
Anyway, Raquel then cut a promo saying that she's getting a rematch next week with Dom barred from ringside.
Great.
The PowerPoint presentation of IC Champions continued. Then Chad Gable cut a promo, and then we got the Drew and Riddle segments where they teased a feud with Kofi.
It took Drew over an hour and a half to do something about that, by the way. Speaking of your production, what was he just wandering? That arena's not that big that he couldn't find Kofi.
Then we got MizTV.
Oh, hello. I forgot we got to talk about this.
Do you want to take this one?
No. I want to watch what happens. I liked it. But I wrote down, I bet Luke hates this. I'm sure I'll do it and see how long it takes you to bubble over. Basically, what happened was we cut back from the break, and the Miz is in the ring for some MizTV.
Well, he made his full entrance.
I don't know. Maybe I skipped over.
He made his full entrance, then they had an ad break, and then he came
go.
back, and he was in the ring.
Egg on my face. He did the full entrance, gets your MizTV segment, and he says, "My guest this week is John Cena," and I think everybody leaned forward a little bit. We were like,
man, they didn't advertise John Cena for the show, but here he is.
They put him to
What a
work.
great surprise. The crowd came alive for that.
The music hits. There's some shots of the crowd being like, "Oh my god, what? He's here!" And as we saw with Money in the Bank, if his music hits, you do react.
And he's going to announce a WrestleMania.
Something like that, yeah. And then he'll come out. The camera goes all the way up, and nobody walks out. And at first, I was like, "Oh, poor Stu got excited like a dog when he thinks his master's come home." But then Stu goes over to the side, as he would if John Cena was there, comes back, and runs down to the ring, following in the full traditional John Cena entrance fashion. And then we cut to the ring, and The Miz goes full Clint Eastwood at the Republican National Convention and starts talking directly to an empty chair, representing John Cena. Because you can't see him.
That you can't see him, everyone.
Yeah. Now you can do the rest.
So, you know a joke is good when you have to explain what it is.
Because you can't see him.
Yeah, like Miz literally had to say, "Oh, you can't see him, everyone."
Which came after Michael Cole had said about 5 times, "I can't see him. I can't see him." And I was like, "Oh, I already got it. I was already there, Michael. You didn't need to."
Okay, so I got a little bit I got ragged upon in the live chat that happened before this this stream went live. Because people were like, I kind of ragged on this in the edited review. People were like, "Oh, Luke hates everything involving the Miz," even though you literally watched last week's episode, where I was very praising of the Miz.
I actually think at this point we could do a supercut of the times you've praised the Miz.
Yes,
in the past year,
but and you could probably do a supercut of that over the last 6 years that I've been doing this podcast, because there have been constant times where I've said the Miz was very good in this segment or the Miz was very good in this match. But this is less on. I think the Miz is totally fine. I think WWE are bad at comedy.
Right.
And I think that this was, as Galvatron once said to Starscream about his coronation, this is bad comedy.
You just spoke a different language to me just now. I have no idea what you're talking about.
And this was bad comedy.
Right.
And if you've ever been to a stand-up show and seen bad comedy, it is like... particularly if a crowd aren't reacting to it as well. And then you've got to watch a comedian be like, oh no, I've got another 5 minutes of this. And they're like, I better try some new material. But The Miz didn't have any other material. He had just the one material. So he just kept doing the same joke again and again and again. And the crowd reacted to it less and less and less. And it went on and on and on and on. And my word, I could have had a big Iago face because I was rolling my eyes so much at the nonsense that was on screen. Maybe it's just because comedy is subjective. So if you thought this was funny, that's absolutely fine. But I was sitting there being like, I don't find this funny, and it is just going and going and going and going.
It's so interesting though, because I didn't feel it as comedy. I don't know. I got the joke initially.
Oh my god, Dan!
No, I got the joke initially, but then I was like, okay, now he's just sort of empty chairing and having a go at this John Cena, and he's sort of trying to expose him. And then he did I will say that the Star Spangled Banner. What's the finish called?
Dan, honestly, maybe next time you should use your eyes and look at that and just.
Oh, you're doing a Jerry Halliwell bit. Oh, I see. Very good. Speaking my language now. Now you're on my turn.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I need to speak to Dan with the pop culture reference you understand.
It wasn't. I'm not sitting there thinking this is Shakespeare, but I just was like, oh, okay, that's the bit, and now he's going to cut a promo on Cena, and then he goes away. And the lighting was. I don't know.
But he didn't do that as well because he then had a match. He had a brawl. With Invisible John Cena.
That bit was a bit silly. Yeah.
but it wasn't comedy though. Dan.
No, I'm not saying that. I don't know. I didn't see it as a pure bit of. I don't know. I didn't hate it.
I've seen people say I thought it was funny, which I totally understand. I think that's I am very much in the minority on this one. I'm quite happy to say I'm massively in the minority on this one. That people thought this was funny, didn't work for me, but that's absolutely fine. But I've seen a lot of people that are doing backflips to try and justify this. The LA Knight's driven him insane, and now he's talking to an invisible John Cena. And I was like, no, because the production were also pretending that it was an invisible John Cena as well. Or someone's even arguing with Sean on Twitter and stuff, where people are arguing with people like, well, it's wrestling, it's not supposed to make sense. And I was like,
I disagree with that wholeheartely. Yeah.
This segment did not work for me. I did end in my notes here by just writing in all caps, effing rubbish.
Yeah, you have done that.
And maybe what didn't help on this, I feel, is this came towards the end of the show where I've seen Seth Rollins continuing his feud with Shinsuke Nakamura. I've seen Raquel continuing to feud with Rhea Ripley. I've seen Sami continuing to feud with the Judgment Day. And now I'm seeing The Miz continue to feud with LA Knight, which sort of makes the whole pay-per-view basically redundant. Particularly when the Miz LA Knight match was 80 minutes and it was quite cack. It was like a 2-star match that did not need to go 18 minutes.
And I'm going to be so bold as to say I think John Cena spoiled it a little bit. I think his presence in it distracted, and it's sort of become about John Cena doing acting.
So I don't really want to see the Miz and LA Knight have another match, but I'm getting another one. I would say this segment did not work for me.
I will have to watch it again because clearly I've never been so what's the word? I was going to say bullied. Bullied is not the word. Laughed at. What's the word? You basically you might as well have just said poppycock because I don't know. I didn't see it as out and out stand-up comedy routine. I saw it as a little bit of he's doing a bit, not a comedy bit. I just saw it as a bit. I saw the humor in him coming out and you can't see him and then he's empty chairing him. That's why I saw it as. I saw this visual of him making a point, but also. So maybe we're both wrong.
100% we're both wrong.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, that should be the title of this podcast.
Welcome to Monday Night Raw review. We're both wrong.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I mean, it's what the comments tell me every week, so it's all right. But yeah, it didn't work for me. Also, this, Miz being in this segment here, doing a segment with John Cena, continuing a feud with LA Knight, teasing stuff with Grayson Waller, kind of does lend credence that it could be him that's going to go across to SmackDown because those are all SmackDown names.
Yeah,
it's not feuding with anyone on Raw at the moment.
That's true.
Speaking of, we then got that moment where Jey was walking backstage and Adam Pearce said that someone's going to get traded to SmackDown, and Tommaso Ciampa wanted to have a little chat with Adam Pearce.
Bit of side eye. That's another. Can I bring him back, please?
Yeah, just do it already.
Just get on with it. Just get on with it. Did you then see there was an advert for the NFL belts?
No.
So just to follow on our conversation last week.
It was the Jaguars that pulled it.
It was the Jags that pulled it. Ah. Told you. I actually
Did I say that it wasn't going to be?
No, not you know. I didn't tell you. I told them.
Right.
Someone said I did read somewhere that in order to have them off, because it's the NFL they've licensed it with, and the teams don't get a say in this. I don't know. You know the people who speak on these things like experts, and they're actually not.
Dan just waved to the camera for our podcast listeners.
Someone was saying that like to get them off sale, they may just have had to have bought all of the belts.
I don't know because
they don't get to license it with them.
But we said last week that it wasn't that they were sold out; they were taken off the website because it was showing 32 products, but there's only 31 available.
No. But then someone from Fnatic said they sold out. Like someone in the social team replied to someone being like, "Where's this belt gone?" They said that we didn't expect this demand. They were sold out so quickly, so we'll get them back as soon as we can. So that has led to people believing that what's happened is essentially Tony Khan in a fit at 3 a.m. has like bought 66,000 Jags belts and is now just going to be sat there grumpily like that, like having like
being surrounded like a Judgment Day backstage segment.
Yeah, exactly. Which, like, let's be honest, that's probably not what went down. But apparently it was the Khan family that took them away.
Yeah.
So like, you know,
petty.
Billionaires hate money.
I sure do. Well, just spending it to give other billionaires money instead.
Yeah.
Or a lot of billionaires just gave a lot of other billionaires money.
Owning all of us.
We then had Sami Zayn and JD McDonough. Dominic Mysterio caused some distraction and allowed JD to score the win with a hook of the tights. Sami continued to brawl with Dom, but JD came to his aid and took the haluva kick for Dom, and Dom did not go back to help him.
I thought this was a good match.
Yeah,
like,
good.
you know, it was there, clearly there to set up a story, but if they wanted to go there and have this be a proper match, I think that's going to be quite well. I wrote, JD is such a simp, because he really is. He did this whole bit where I was like, no, Dominic, you run to the back and I'll take the haluva kick. And I was like, grow a pair.
I actually, do you know what? Some are saying that we should do a poll about the Miz segment.
Oh, okay.
I actually don't think that's a terrible idea. Actually, I mean, I think that was it good? Yes, we'll win. I'm actually curious to know what the split will be.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I think we are going to have the winner will be yes. But
we're getting close to the end of the show, so
can we have a poll, please, Mod Mother? Was the MizTV segment good or bad? So yeah, we'll go just good or bad.
Yeah.
Good is going to win. I'm just very curious on what the split is.
Yeah, me too.
Then we had...
But sorry, JD McDonough desperately trying to get into the Judgment Day is absolutely hilarious to me, especially because of the head on him.
We then had a recap of Becky and Tiffany Stratton having a segment at Payback. There was a report, I think it was from Better Wrestling Experience, that said they were going to have a match at some point.
I'm well into this. We've been talking about, like, you know, Becky has been exhausted from this feud with Trish, and I almost feel like you're not immediately going to go into another feud with like Rhea or anywhere else. So go and have a lovely little match with Tiffany Stratton in NXT, and really enjoy yourself. Like, you know, close to home.
Yeah, absolutely. Build a new star as well.
Yeah,
good. I like it. We then had the Judgment Day segment we talked about earlier with JD and Dom. Sorry, it's because I got JD written in my notes. Jay and Dom. Then we got our main event. We then got our main events, everyone. This is what we all want to talk about. In fact, I can tell you this for free, Dan. You know, we led with the Jey Uso thing of like, you know, who's going to get traded to SmackDown. I actually wanted to have this as the thumbnail. That is actually what I wanted to have for today's podcast. But, you know, forces worked against me, and I had to do the Cody thing instead.
I want you to know that at the end of this match, by the way, I watched most of Raw at home, and I finished the show off in the office, and I had it on a big screen. I was watching it, and as a sign of how good this match is, people stopped doing work to come and watch the end of it with me.
I came in and was like, everyone needs to watch that match.
Yeah, and it was so fun, and I was wriggling with glee. Like, I was at points... Like, Pete was laughing at me because I kept going, like, I was really reacting. We'll get into why specifically. But at the end of the match, I was like, oh my God. And I turned away to be like, this is why this match was so great. So I missed something. And Luke goes, Dan, you need to rewind that.
I was like, Dan, you missed the best bit.
You missed the best bit, right? Roll back the tapes from like 2 weeks ago where we talked about Luke as a father cares about children. And I think children are grotty little things that should be seen and not heard. I'd barely be seen at that point. Luke was the one with glee telling me that I needed to watch a child's heartbreak and world collapse.
Because it was genuine. I cried.
Did you?
When the kid I saw the kid cry, I had a couple of tears like stroll down my face.
Oh, I thought you were just cackling away because you thought it was as funny as I did. No. The rolls are back.
Here we are. We're back to it. Pretty Dudley. We're back once again, like Renegade Masters. No, like I genuinely got like I enjoyed it so much because that reaction was so genuine.
It was. They were big globule tears.
Big tears that I was like, that's the best bit of the match.
Yeah.
Like that shows you what this storyline means, and like I know it's his family and stuff, but like I thought it was tremendous.
I said there were 2 star-making shots this weekend. One of them is Ricky Starks being choked out in a label lock, and the other one is that Chad Gable becomes a star because his daughter cares so much. But yeah, what a goddamn match, guys.
So out of the way, let's get this out of the way because it is the big talking point about this match. The ad breaks ruined it.
Okay.
This should. I
haven't actually read any talking points.
I would. Like, it's unfortunately this is what everyone was talking about coming out of this because for whatever reason WWE saved all of their ad breaks for the final 10 minutes of this show. So what we had was 2 minutes of wrestling, then a 3-minute ad break, then 3 minutes of wrestling, then a 3.5-minute ad break, and then we got the. So we had more ad break than we had wrestling in the first 2/3 of this, and because of that, the first 2/3 of this match were more or less nothing.
Right,
but. That's that. I wanted to get that out of the way because that's what everyone was talking about, and I think it is I think it's a worthy topic point of why wasn't this match on pay-per-view, because this would have been so much better on pay-per-view where you wouldn't have had to do that. Tempest went off on one in the office being like, and this is why I think Triple H is a bad booker, because I think he's bad at structuring shows and he's bad at deciding which, because he's like, Austin Theory got to have a match on pay-per-view, but this is the match he decided to put on Raw. He completely went off on one.
So to counter that point, which I think is a fair one, I think the reason this match was on Raw is because this is the last television episode before the end of the reign. So they got to do the thing of like, if he wins tonight, history will be made. If it was on Saturday, you could make the argument that someone could come out on Monday.
You could defend it on Raw.
So it is that point of saying this is either we're going to get a new first-time Intercontinental Champion to add to this roster of greats who've won it, or the longest reign in history.
Yeah.
That's why it was on Raw. Triple H is bad booker, or whatever. It's the production thing. I always go back to, and this predates Triple H.
Absolutely. It's a WWE problem.
Yeah.
Brackets general.
And I wonder if they couldn't have fought for a commercial-free third hour for the purpose.
Or just move the commercial breaks into other parts of the show.
Or done that, yeah.
But there are a lot of ad breaks. Because that's the other thing. It's like, what's amazing about American TV. Like, I watched this, I'm like, man, there's so many ad breaks in this. But then I watched it, it's like, man, we need, like, there just need to be less ad breaks, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I resent... this is really interesting. Live television... We're on a sidebar now. Live television, I don't mind adverts. Like, I'm watching an episode of the Bake Off. It's advert time. Oh, I'll just nip to get a cup of tea, come back for the next part of Bake Off.
That's why the adverts are louder.
Exactly.
So they can tell you, like, when you go to the kitchen.
Tom Scott made a video on this recently. Yes, exactly that.
Really?
Yeah. I also live in an open plan house, so I don't miss anything if I go and get a cup of tea. But I don't mind that. When I watch like 4OD, and in order to get to the thing that I press play on, I have to watch 3 minutes of unskippable ads, I get cross. So it's a really interesting it's an interesting conversation to have with people over pints. Probably not when we should be talking about the latter half of this match, because once they were out of the way, as you say...
we'll get... that's the thing. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, because that is one of the big talking points about this. But I don't think it should overshadow how good the final 5 minutes of this were. And I think the reason why that talking point has become such a big thing is because it's frustration from fans of, why was this not on the pay-per-view? Although I get your point. Actually, I take your point a lot, that it makes more sense to do it on Raw because of the historicness of this all. Because, man alive, when these two got out of the ad break mode, because they just wrestled 2/3 of this match in ad break mode, once they were able to just have their match, they had a wicked 5-minute sprint. And it was so awesome. Built around Chad Gable finally hitting the Chaos Theory suplex for a near fall. And then kicking out, and Gunther not being able to put this man down to the point that he just then had to straight up murderize him.
Yeah.
Dropped him on his head, full Kenny Omega style. I wonder why no one's kicking off about this like they would have done as Kenny Omega, but that's by the by. And then killing him with a powerbomb. He basically had 3 finishes stored up. Because he dropped him on his head, hit him with this wicked powerbomb, then decked him with this lariat. And even then when Gunther was pinning him, and this is why Gunther is a perfect wrestler, he felt like he still might kick out here.
Yeah.
And just like he pinned him and he won, and he was like, and there was a genuine sigh of, brilliant. 2 reasons. A, I finally put that man down, and I didn't think that was going to be possible. And B, I am going to set the record. And there was a point during this match where and actually in the build up to this, that I did not think that might happen. Because Gunther's perfect. Like, he's so good at selling all of this, and the drama and the emotion was so excellent.
Yeah.
I loved this.
You are dead right about all of those things, and especially about the Gunther being perfect. And I'm going to tag in and tell you why Chad Gable's perfect as well.
Please do.
Because
this was a big performance for Chad.
It was both of them coming to this absolute pinnacle of everything that I love about wrestling. At one point, I literally just went, "Oh, I love wrestling!" Like, I just couldn't help myself, because from the moment that we really start picking up the match, they used the count out as a fake out. Like, they used the count out that Gable has this one victory that anyone's ever had over Gunther, and it was a count out victory, and they used it to get him in the ring. But Gunther was able to use that to then get back to his feet, take advantage, and powerbomb for the near fall. It's a beautiful bit of agenting, beautiful bit of putting that match together.
Because he can't win by a count out this time.
And then you get you get that near fall, and then Gunther on the top, and it basically Chad Gable does a superplex, and Michael Cole is at his very best here, screaming, "Gable's got a chance! Gable's got a chance!" It really suckers you into it. And then from that moment, all of my notes are in all caps, because the movement is so smooth. Tempest and I had a conversation during all that about what styles of wrestling do you like, because there are some people who really like that strong style, some people really like submission wrestling. I love chain wrestling, I love mat wrestling, I love wrestling that feels like that blend of showmanship and Olympian and brutality, and I got all of it in this match. There was a moment where there was a kick out, and the second he kicked out, Chad Gable is straight in on the ankle lock. There was a moment that he pulled,
because it was he went for the moonsault.
I'm getting there. There was a moment where he's pulled the straps down, and he puts the straps back up to pull the straps back down again. Then there's a chaos theory. The whole thing of the chaos theory, could we do it? Well, no, Gunther gets out of it with an elbow. There's a moment where he does a moonsault. Chad Gable does this picture-perfect moonsault, but he gets the feet up. But he kind of anticipated that might come, so he gets the moon.
He baited Gunther into it.
He baited Gunther into another ankle lock. He does the ankle lock and does the thing that I always love, where you grapevine and you hold the legs there, and it makes you feel like, probably because of the years of being a Kurt Angle fan, no one's getting out of that.
And Gunther is there stretching and reaching for the ropes. He's just about to get it. So, like Kurt Angle, drag them right back into the ring, bush, and lock it even harder.
And the second that you dragged back and you're locked in, that for me is a match ender.
It feels like a finish.
It's a match ender.
It's an incredible near fall.
To that, and I wrote naughty words in my notes as well. To the point then, when you finally do get to the moment that Gunther sort of says, "I can't beat this guy. I'm going to have to simply break his neck to make it happen," which goes from a chokehold, a sleeper hold that Chad Gable is fighting out. And how I've got the biggest arms in the world. How are you fighting out of this? Well, I'll just do a giant suplex to your back, and then I'm going to do a power bomb. And that power bomb usually is the finish. That power bomb has finished off some of the biggest names in all of wrestling over the past year, and I mean biggest quite literally. So he says, "I'm going to push you back, and because you're sort of like on Dream Street getting back to your feet, I'm going to lariat the hell out of you, break your neck, and make your child cry." It was unbelievable. It was spoiled by ads at the beginning. I get that. I understand the discourse. But I don't want, and I don't feel that should take away from the excellent work done, and I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that this match was agented by Jason Jordan, because he's done the past few.
He did the past few, yeah.
So I want to give credit to whoever was the agent, and if that was Jason Jordan, well done, because the plotting and the pacing here, especially in this final stretch, was so good. Credit to Chad Gable for being the best person in the world. Credit for Gunther for being the other best wrestler in the world, because Chad Gable, after this, deserves another go. Tell me that he doesn't. And then Gunther grabbing that belt, it wasn't even like I'm celebrating, I'm dominant. He's just broken, like in this moment he hasn't broken the record, but he has basically achieved it. He's not going to defend it again.
They said on Raw, that's it.
That's it. He's done it.
Because on Wednesday the record was officially broken, and he's not defending the belt before then. So it's just like, that is it. He has broken the record.
And yet there was no pyro, there was no big celebration, there was no dominant I am Gunther display, because he came within a whisker of losing it. So he just put the belt around his waist and walked off and looked back in the ring like, Christ. And it kind of, in my list on Sunday, I made a point of saying that when you do squash matches, they can be effective, but it's more effective to let your big guy look vulnerable, because Gunther looks like a beast now, and Chad Gable deserves another go at that belt.
It's why I go back to Gunther being a perfect wrestler, and I've made this point numerous times over the last 7 or so years, like even going back to when we were doing Walter matches. He wrestles like a big guy, but doesn't sell like a big guy. He sells like a normal inverted commas wrestler. He sells like Chad Gable would sell. And because you add in that vulnerability, it actually makes your beast mode even more impressive. Because, yes, so someone could beat you, but you'll always win because you're always more powerful. And I just think that makes him just so, so great. I thought the selling that he did at the end of this was absolutely spectacular. No interference from Imperium, I think, was the right thing. No interference from Otis. I think that was so right cool. Just keep them completely away from this and just have this focused on Chad and Gunther. Completely the right call, and man, did they deliver.
Oh my God.
Gunther 100% is going to feature very highly in the top 10 wrestlers of the year.
Oh, yeah.
When we get to our end of year awards, he is going to feature very, very highly. Chad Gable's getting his votes.
Yeah. And
I sorry to finish my point, because Gunther's had an incredible run against, the Rumble run, then the Mania match with Sheamus and Drew, then the match with Drew as well at SummerSlam. To a lesser degree, the Matt Riddle one, because that wasn't particularly great. I was actually quite let down by that one. But there has been some other great TV matches throughout this. But I don't think anyone's going to be voting for Matt Riddle in this. I don't think anyone's going to be voting for Sheamus when it comes to the end of the year. I don't know if people will be voting for Drew when the end of year awards come around. But people will be voting for Chad. And that's how great Chad has been, not just in this story, but the Viking Raiders storyline as well. He has been exceptional on Raw this year. And this was like a perfect, I would say, finale to his IC title aspirations. I kind of see Gunther move on to a different program. But much like Orange Cassidy at the end of All Out.
Oh my God.
You need to ride this momentum and move Chad into a big program with a big time star.
And there's your other conversation to have him over in SmackDown. Because he could maybe have a singles run there. Like, I don't know. I also, to your point, it's made the Intercontinental Championship feel incredible.
Oh yeah.
Like this it's something worth putting everything on the line for. The best wrestlers in the world go for this belt, and what an embarrassment of riches to have on your roster.
Yeah, Gunther's reign has made that title feel like something again, and that is actually not just a credit to Gunther, but Triple H.
Yeah,
and I think Triple H has done an incredible job in making that title, because that title has meant nothing for 20 years.
Yeah,
and it has just been on mid-card after mid-card. You and I did SummerSlam 2013. And it was just, lads just had it. Lads had it for a couple of months. Then it went to a different lad who had it for a couple of months. Then a different lad had it for another couple of months. Shinsuke had it for like a year and never defended it on pay-per-view because the title was meaningless.
If you go back and watch Survival Series for the IC title, like, it's Gunther and then it's nonsense.
Yeah, honestly, it's just a bunch of lads have had this belt. But Gunther and Triple H have made that title feel so important within this company. And it's a huge credit to him. And then because of that, it's made Chad now feel like a legitimate star, not just comedy goofball Chad Gable. He does, people often pick me up on this whole, like, what The Miz can't do serious and comedy. Kurt Angle could do serious and comedy. MJF can do serious and comedy. Adam Cole can do serious and comedy. Kurt Angle was like the best at it. Chad Gable can do serious and comedy and can flick the switch and you buy into it every single time.
Yeah.
He's so, so great.
And I'm so thrilled for him to have that moment.
I really wish this was on pay-per-view. I really wish this was on Payback, because I think this then would have ended up being in the top matches of the year. As it stands, I don't think this is going to be in a lot of people's conversations because of the first 2/3 of it are borderline redundant.
It will be there for me, or at least it will be when I'm sitting down and doing my list at the end of the year. It'll be there for me, if only because of the pure glee that it made me feel.
I think it'll get a handful of 1-point votes, but it's no one's 5.
Right.
It's no one's top vote. It's no one's second vote, because there's been so much good wrestling this year. But if had this been on pay-per-view,
you think
I think it probably would have been in people's conversations. There certainly would have been in the 3 category. But as it stands, this is awesome.
Amazing.
This is so, so great.
Yeah.
And it really did, I think, elevate and save a lot of this episode.
Yeah.
Which was, for the most part, fine. Like a borderline fine episode. I think the Jey Uso stuff's very interesting. But then you look throughout the rest of it and you're like, yeah, well, it's all the same stuff we had last week and at Payback. But it's just, we're just doing the same thing again. But this felt different. This felt important. And yeah, and he's broken the record. Tempest was very happy about this, because he absolutely hates that that the Honky Tonk Man has had the record for so long.
Yeah, he said something about people talking about it being like this joke that everyone's sad about being over. I'm like, it's not a funny joke.
Yeah,
you were talking about comedy earlier on.
Yeah.
It's not a funny joke.
And because I was saying, like, it is a joke that works, and it is a joke that's funny because it's the workhorse title, and the person who held it for the longest was one of the laziest workers,
right?
Who was not the workhorse guy. He was not a Perfect. He was not a Bret Hart. He was not a Randy Savage. He was the Honky Tonk Man, and that's why it's been a funny thing that he's been the longest reigning champ. Also, then Ultimate Warrior beats him in 6 seconds. That's the punchline to the joke. And he's like, I thought they would have done it like years ago. And I said, well, the problem is that for 20 plus years,
for 20 long years,
they've treated it like it was a joke.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
So
like,
they don't treat it like a joke, treat it like it was nothing. So it didn't matter that the Honky Tonk Man had the record. But since Gunther has made the belt feel important, give the record to Gunther.
That's it. Yeah, completely agree.
Well, I mean, what would you have scored this episode on a 5 out of 5? Or where are you going?
That way. That way.
It's
sort of middle to there.
Mid-pointing up. Well, we got a poll you can vote for in our live chat. Let us know what you thought of this episode of Monday Night Raw.
For me, it's the Jey Uso stuff and the Gunther match at the end that really makes
it. That's what I would say, yeah. And we're going to be shouting out our Patreon Pledgehammers on Patreon. Head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. That's fine. You can do it from whitelist as well. And back is over at Patreon, where you get loads of exclusive content. Tomorrow will be the mailbag show. Then the week after that will be WrestleTalk behind the scenes.
Ooh.
Then we'll have WrestleTalk After Dark, and then WrestleTalk Extra, which is looking to be WrestleFest 97.
Oh, wow.
Which was an ECW show to put on to celebrate the retirement of Terry Funk.
Ah.
So we thought that would be... that's why it got voted, and I think it's certainly why it's doing well in the poll. Unforgiven 2009 giving a bit of a run for its money.
Okay.
But I think that Terry Funk will probably tip this one over the edge. Only problem is it's not on the network.
Oh, interesting.
It is not on the network. It is not on YouTube. The main event is on YouTube, which was Bret Hart and Terry Funk. But it's not the whole show is not on the network. It's not on Dailymotion. It's not on YouTube. So we might have to buy an American DVD of it, because the only other thing we do is buy the VHS copy of it
on eBay.
So we might have to buy an American Region 1 DVD and then find a way to play that, because no one has DVD players anymore.
It's a nice idea to put it in there, but it's almost like you've given yourself an uphill struggle.
Well, I said to Dave Bradshaw, like, if it wins, which it likely will, and we can't do it, I would suggest we do Barely Legal 97 instead, because it's an ECW show. Funk wins the belt, and that's kind of like, that would be our make-do, because we can't do WrestleFest. I'd love to be able to do WrestleFest.
If we can find it.
But we've always said with WrestleTalk Extra, for suggestions that we can access.
Right.
Like, as long as it's on a streaming service, that we accept those nominations, and this is not available on the streaming service.
Yeah, let's see.
Anyway, but if you are one of our $25 and above Patreon Pledgehammers, then you will get your name read out on the show like these fine folk: the Black Plague, Butch Rosser,
Champion Zero Fear, Hitman Soul,
the Cleaner, Kenny Shaw,
the British Bulldog, Philip Boy J. Smith Jr.
He can last Sean Fur longer than you in the ring.
Starbuck, Stephen Costa,
Shield Maiden, the Zornice.
He ran Aaron Hanrahan.
He brings the fear, Amir Jones.
Andrew Gifford, the Big Red Dog.
The Schrockmaster, Austin Schrock.
And I'm afraid he's got some bad news. It's Bad News Bob, the Ninja Goldfish.
And that is your Hall of Fame class for the 5th of September 2023. Where has the year gone?
Well, we're up to getting ready for War Games stuff. What a weird year it's been.
Dude, I was in Sainsbury's at the weekend and they had Christmas sweets out.
Yeah, well, that's nonsense, isn't it?
Yeah. And I feel like they do.
I get annoyed with people looking for autumn.
Yeah, well, I feel like they do it. Feels like they just do it earlier and earlier this year. Might as well put them up on Boxing Day, if you ask me. But it's...
That's the best accent you've done all day.
Probably some woke nonsense that means they've got to put it out there.
Oh God!
It's my Daily Mail reader voice. And anyway, I think they do it so people post about it on Twitter.
That's not a bad shout.
With the whole like, I can't believe they put them out earlier and earlier. It seems.
They're indoors is gearing up for Halloween, and I'm furious because I don't like Halloween at the best of times.
I find remarkable.
Not a fan.
What is it about actors not liking Halloween? Because like my friend is, and you've said this before, because it's
we have to dress up on it every day.
Because my sister-in-law's partner, so he's an actor.
Yeah.
And he's like, I hate Halloween. I was like, why? And he's like, I hate dressing up. And I was like, you're an actor.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, it's annoying then as well.
You don't watch wrestling for pleasure, do you? You don't.
What?
You don't like video games, do you? You don't do video games for fun, do you?
Yeah, in my spare time, I do.
It's my joke I'm making.
Oh.
Like you're not going to help my cause.
Oh.
I'm saying that you do these things for work, and actually you also enjoy them in real life.
Right,
Whereas
I
we're
see.
like, oh, I hate to do these things. It didn't work. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, it's like a MizTV segment. Vandalian
How
1998 said, do you think with Jey now on Raw, he could be a good feud for Gunther since the record is no longer an issue and he's supposed to be an upper babyface?
Yeah. They could have a good match.
Yeah. The Guilty Hat here says, to each their own at the end of the day, but I don't really understand Luke's position on The Miz. Tons of wrestlers swap between serious and silly segment to segment. The MizTV segment was fun, just a shame if it builds towards Cena beating Miz again. Well, I don't think that would be a shame. What's the shame in Cena beating The Miz?
People like The Miz.
Yeah, but it's John Cena.
Yeah, but it's grumpy actor John Cena. Can I talk for a second about his bad acting at Payback? Really was getting on my nerves.
Why is it that he is on movies?
That's my point.
Well, it's directors, then, I guess.
Well, he's a good actor and he's a good...
Yeah.
But he's doing this job wrong. Like, he's...
But he's never done it right. Like, he is... When he goes to wrestle work, he's very bad at doing the acting.
Earnest.
But the second he goes onto a movie set,
He's
he is
amazing.
an incredible comedic actor.
Yeah.
And an incredible actor just full stop. The second he walks through the WWE doors, he's like, and his name is Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan. It's just the gravitas of it. He's trying to really focus on it. And now his name is L.A.
And you're right, there are plenty of wrestlers that swap between serious and silly, but you take those ones seriously when they do go to the serious mode. And I don't with The Miz.
I also think they don't whiplash as much. I think The Miz does whiplash a lot.
Terelia Marcus here says, I really hope that Gunther is going to break the record for combined reigns of the IC title. There would also include a squash match against The Miz because his 8-day reign would be broken.
If combined... Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so just keep hold of that.
I thought you meant, did you want him to be a 9-time champion? And I was like, well, that just means he has to lose a lot.
No, it's just like, yeah. Just
Total,
yeah. Cade here said, it's my favorite WrestleTalk boys. JK, I love you all. Just wanted to say that I love what you've done with what they've done with Nakamura to make him feel like a legit badass. Thank you guys again for the great work. Got me through some hard days in high school. Keep up the great work.
You're welcome. I also like what they've done with Nakamura. I just hope they commit to it. You know, I hope they keep up because the match hasn't done it. Well, the video package again, there was one at the start of this show. I like that as well.
Scott Young, hear me out, lads. If Punk goes to WWE, though I don't think he will, have him dethrone Roman. Then there's a story with Cody where you can talk about how Punk stole his moment and ruined his baby being AEW. It won't happen, but I think there could be potential.
I see what you're doing there. Other way round. Cody needs to dethrone Roman. CM Punk comes to challenge for that belt and say, you know what I mean? And then there's a story in there, I think.
Ooh, Kingslayer said, what if the trade is Kevin Owens? It would make Sami sour and on Jey, and just another idea that Cody trade just seems like the obvious choice. Do you all have ideas about who it could be? Well, yeah, but that was basically the first half hour of this chat.
You've convinced me it's Cody at this point.
Chris Deaton says, it could be Sami and have the only person that Jey... It could be Sami and have the only person happy that Jey is on Raw leave. Also, I love country music, so Hardcore Country is a great song. I also think Dom has been the MVP for the last couple of weeks.
Hardcore Country is not the problem. The problem is the people chanting Hardcore Country and not watching actual Mickey James, in a British wrestling independent match for the first time. Stop it.
Tommy Rose. Will Campbell said, hi guys, I have two things I took away from this episode. One, Michael Mizanin is a master of his style of comedy.
I agree.
Two, Chad Gable is one of the greatest wrestlers I've ever seen in my life, and Tripp needs to strap the rocket to him now.
I agree.
I certainly agree with the second part. Briscoe says, between Seth, Cody, and Sami, logically it's Cody, but fancy booking, it's Seth because of the... Oh, no! No! Sorry, Briscoe, but no, it's
Finish the story.
It's Seth because of the world title and another feather Roman could put in his cap. But Priest or Finn, two briefcases, captures the world title during Seth's exit.
The briefcase is not the thing. The contract is inside the briefcase.
Exactly, yeah. And
there aren't two briefcases.
I saw someone in the chat earlier being like, what if JD's given him a briefcase that's empty?
You open the briefcase and put the contract in the other briefcase.
If they reveal that he goes to cash in and it's now empty because JD didn't put the contract in, or rather he didn't put the contract in,
That's killed Money in the Bank.
That might be the worst thing that's ever happened to Money in the Bank.
And we saw something pretty bad last year.
Vandalia 1998 said, "This is a little off topic and a few weeks late, but do you think with how packed SummerSlam was and having to cut matches, should they start doing WrestleMania and go 2 nights instead of trying to do it all at once?"
No, I think WrestleMania earned being 2 nights for the glamour and the pageantry of WrestleMania, which SummerSlam doesn't have. Like, it has its own, but it's not. I think it needs to be a 1-night show. I just think you need to. I think the other problem is one thing we experienced live at All In was them just sort of coming out, right? And it would be like, the match is over. I'm going to go to the bathroom. Oh, wait, there's another match right now. Like, the matches just kept going. Same thing happened at Rev Pro. Same thing happened at All Out the other night. Because of Peacock and all of the ad breaks, there's a lot of space and bagginess in a WWE show. So when you do want to book it long and book more matches, that can be why it feels like it drags. It's just about, Triple H likes long matches. Some of them don't need to go more than 10 minutes.
Briscoe here says, would you have Chad Gable and Sheamus go against Gunther at WrestleMania in a triple threat? I thought, Sheamus has just lost all momentum.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
You can get it back now, but it's not something I'm clamoring to see at the moment.
No, I think you can quite easily get it back. I think you're right. I personally would probably at this point have it be Sheamus. I said a couple of weeks ago that Chad Gable was the man to do it to really make him look like a star. I think he looked like a star last night.
We also have the result of our poll. Was the MizTV segment actually good? I'm genuinely surprised at this. Yes did win, but it was only 56% of the vote.
Divisive.
That is divisive. That's way more divisive than I thought it was going to be. I really thought that would be more 70-30 or even 80-20.
Yeah, I agree.
Amy here says, always look forward to Tuesday mornings with you two. Matching outfits may be the way to go from now on. Off-topic question. I made a bet with some non-wrestling fans and won. Now they have to watch 1 hour of wrestling. What matches would you include?
TLC 2, Taker versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. Go.
Triple H The Rock Backlash 2000 because that has got pure wrestling silliness.
That's not the Iron Man match, is it?
No, that's Judgment Day.
They've got 1 hour.
Yeah. No, that's Judgment Day. No, you do the one which has got Vince is the special guest referee, and you've got the Austin in the corner. I think Shane's the special guest referee, and Vince is in Triple H's corner. Austin comes back to be in the Rock's corner. He batters Patterson, Briscoe. It's perfect.
Oh, and Bayley versus Sasha Banks, Brooklyn.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the and don't do the respect match because that gives up half an hour of your time. Do the Brooklyn match.
Yeah.
And Tyria Marcus here says, Luke, I love your accents. Please do more of them.
Stop it.
Jonathan Cantres has become a brand new member, and Brandon Brown has become a brand new member. Let's just have a quick check, see if that was the last of our chats. I believe it is. We'll have another check in a second, but I'm going to end the poll.
In about a month's time, Luke's going to have a tombola of accents that he's just going to whip out at any given moment. And
I'm excellent at accents.
Okay. If I say that you are, this is the thing. If I say you are, maybe you'll stop. But if I say you are, maybe you'll carry on. And I think I'm damned if I do and I don't.
It's a lose-lose situation. Or it's a lose-lose situation.
I mean, I can't do an Irish accent. I can do a few accents. Irish, never.
Yeah. I've tried. Can you do?
Well, now you put me on the spot and I feel shy and I don't want to.
Typical actor.
I'm like, well, I don't want to be at work.
Right, what did you think of this episode of Raw?
I liked it very much. I can't do it. I'm on the spot. I used to be able to do it quite well. Cheese on a stick.
Jeff Jarrett walk into the room here.
Hi, Luke. I remember you from WrestleTalk. We worked together loads. We've been friends for a long time. I certainly didn't forget about you in the press conference. This is bad. This is very bad. Wrap it up. Swedish people. I'm from Sweden. That's an in joke. That's specifically that's an in joke for those who know.
Anyway, you gave this 55% thumbs up, 41 mid. So that is kind of it's a range right there. That is what we said there. It's mid pointing slightly up.
I mean, we've gone from a run of some really thumbs up shows to mid getting a lot more action.
So yeah, there you go. That is everything on this episode of Raw. Thank you all so much for joining. Tomorrow here on the channel, it will be the best of WrestleTalk from the month of August. So yeah, that's going up tomorrow. So please do enjoy that video because Vinny does a lot of work in putting together the best of WrestleTalk podcast. So go and watch that video and give that man his flowers as well. And then on Thursday, we're back with the Dynamite review. Until then, please do press the subscribe button if you made it this far.
You'll get all the fallout from All Out.
And give it a thumbs up as well. And leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode of Raw. And we'll be back very, very soon. I've been Nico, and DAD, that has been your Jam That Champion. The Professor, the Truth, Dan Layton, Hardcore Country.
Nice.